Welcome to the Remind Podcast, the podcast where we get inside the real estate entrepreneur's mind. My name is Harrison Smith. I'll be your host, and I'm joined today by Stephanie O'Brien. How are we doing, Stephanie?
I'm good, Harrison. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here. So excited.
Yeah, so happy to have you. Our paths crossed through a mutual friend, Jackson, and
Yep.
I'm so happy to have you tell your story. But let's start off with, for those folks that don't know who you are, let's share a little bit about you, who you are, and what you're up to right now.
My name is Stephanie O'Brien. As you said, I am a single mother to an 8-year-old little girl. I am located in Columbus, Ohio. And right now, I own a relocation company called Your Ohio to Florida Connection. And I also have been selling real estate.
Awesome, awesome. So a little bit of both, and certainly for us in the real estate space, we love relocation because that's a great source of leads and honestly, people that really do need the help.
They really do. They do. Absolutely.
So awesome. So what we learned through this podcast that most people don't start where they are, or even start in real estate for that matter. So can you tell a little bit about your journey? Where did you get started, and how did you end up where you are now?
Well, it's funny. We never end up where we think we're going to be. About 25 years ago, I was approached by a title company called Chicago Title. So I got into real estate in a very roundabout way. They needed somebody who could help create marketing. So I started the marketing department in 2002 at Chicago Title. So I actually came from the title insurance field where I spent almost 25 years working with realtors, getting their business by facilitating marketing, showing them how to get business inexpensively. And that kind of led down the path to being a very successful title rep, which led me to creating my relocation company, which is basically it's to connect Ohio to Florida, and it's geared off of agents that work Ohio and Florida. So I like to
Gotcha.
keep the Ohio connection to keep it local, but it's always somebody who's moving in between the two states. And I'll tell you what, the all the years of doing marketing for the realtors has gave me a great jump start. So in 2 years, we've referred out $53 million now, all
Wow,
agent to agent referrals.
that's a lot of referral
It's a
business.
lot of referrals.
Well, and it's interesting. There's a number of things to unpack there, but what's interesting is that you really learned the real estate business from the outside by helping agents, really helping agents generate, more leads and do their own marketing. What was it like being on the outside looking in and getting involved with real estate from that side?
That side is my heart. After you spend over 20 years there, my real estate agents have become like family and
Mm,
friends. I still manage marketing for some of them. I think it gave me a different view of real estate. I think, as we go into sellers markets like we're in now, a lot of people don't understand that their houses are overpriced, or, they get a lot of promises that they overpromise and underdeliver. Where in title, I got to see more of the numbers. I pulled a lot
mm,
of comps for CMAs. I did a lot of the back end stuff that some of the realtors don't see. Running numbers, doing closing. So I think I got a little bit more of not such more of a transparent, if that makes sense.
mhm.
I saw the entire picture. Some
Yeah,
realtors come in, think it's rosy and it's all sunshine and rainbows, and it's not. So I got to see the hard stuff before I got to see the fun stuff. So, building other agents' business plans and marketing, number one, gave me a sense of satisfaction because I love I love the service industry. I love serving my agents and helping them build their business as much as I did my own. And by doing that, I saw the need um, for someone to connect the two states. So that kind of led me down the path. Everybody, hey, Steph, I know you have a lot of different clients in other areas. Do you have anybody that can help me in Florida? So I was also a very safe choice because I wasn't practicing real estate. It
mhm.
was an agent to agent referral without a referral fee. So they knew I didn't have anything, I wasn't gaining anything. And the only thing I wanted was to grow my business. So I kind of went down that path with marketing to grow my business in title. And then I became one of the top title reps in Ohio. And then how you get brought up, you got to get knocked down.
Uh huh.
So I, um, I was doing 270 transactions, and I got my business destroyed by a company I went to in 2020. 2021. So basically what happened is I went to a national title company and they destroyed my career because of the bad processing. So I had no choice but to go out on my own and start the one thing I'd already been doing, which was a relocation company. And then I just traveled back and forth to Florida every other week for the last 3 years. I built up an arsenal of agents I trust in Florida, an arsenal of agents I trust in Ohio, and all of them dual sell, which I love.
Yeah, that's great. And so I want to dive into the marketing here a little bit. A lot of agents get their license, they get in the business, they hang that license and they grab a desk and they turn their phone on and they just wait for it to ring. I'm an
Yep,
agent. People are going to want to work with me.
not the way
Um,
it works.
exactly. And what you got to see from the outside is, well, that doesn't really work. But let me show some things that might. So, what about the marketing really kind of caught your attention and pulled you towards that versus, when you see the gap, you could have just gone into production and picked up all the clients for yourself, but you chose instead to pivot towards marketing. Why marketing?
Because I love to tell houses stories through pictures, and I love to tell houses stories through social media. My heart has always been in marketing, the referring business out, watching other people's business grow. Maybe that's just because I spent the bulk of my career doing that, but the marketing gives me a sense of satisfaction because I see the one thing that's always enticed me and got me excited over the last 25 years is when the light bulb goes off at a new agent's head and they understand.
Hmm.
As a realtor, we get bombarded with marketing. There's always the next best thing. But what people don't realize is they already have what they need. I heard something about 2 years ago. Someone told me that you've already met everybody in your lifetime that you need to meet to be successful and to become a millionaire entrepreneur. I didn't realize that until I started looking back at my network of people over the last 20 years, and it's absolutely correct. The one thing I did not do was ask for business when I should have. You
Hmm.
know, I and after going through, the trauma with real estate, my personal life, I have 11 year sobriety. So I also am an 8 year cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when my daughter was five days old. So
Oh,
I think I've been, yeah, talk about a crazy time, but
wow.
I think it's given, you know, it's the authenticity and the transparency. And it also, I think going through an experience like that, and I was a top producer in the title field at that time. I think, it changes you.
Mhm.
Everybody's all about the money and, grandiose. I am more about, I want to show agents how to build their business on small budgets. I want to show them that you don't have to send out 1,000 postcards. You can do very authentic marketing. And I think over the years, I've just gravitated toward that. And it's that and the telling the houses stories that excite me, especially in Florida. Watching how different agents market in different states. The one thing that's consistent is the love for real estate and the love to tell houses stories. And I just don't, I happen to be one of those people that like to tell the stories through marketing. And
Yeah.
other agents tell the stories through, selling it. I would rather market someone else's listing than my own because I've learned that I fit better in the back end of real estate, like the marketing side or the relocation side, than I do as an actual realtor. And I'm glad I had that experience, but it also taught me about where I fit in the industry. And I think a lot of people need the authenticity and the transparency that comes with people like me, especially now that things are so crazy in the real estate market and industry.
Yeah, no, I think that's hugely valuable. The ability to help people market their business, but also connect them to leads. It's a little bit of a one-stop shop for all things, visual and graphic and helping them get their brand out there. And I have to laugh. I get the question all the time from agents of what should I be doing for marketing? And I'm like, take a knee for a second. HGTV is one of the most watched television
Mm.
channels on the planet because people love real estate. You sell something people are fascinated by. Just tell the story of what you do. That's what people love to see. They love houses. They love knowing what the neighbor's floor plan and layout looks like. They know what $1 million buys you here versus there. Like, just tell the stories and be interesting. And that is all it's going to take people to begin to engage with you, follow you, and you can establish your own brand and persona just through that.
And that's, to be honest, Harrison, that's exactly what I did. To kind of touch on something you talked about telling houses stories. I think the hardest thing that we do as realtors is to set the expectation right with sellers.
Oh
I
yeah.
know as a licensed realtor, I listed 7 million in the last year. And when I decided I wanted to take a step back from real estate and do more of the relocation, I had listed 4 million in May. So those are big numbers, but big numbers come, you know, the seller wanted to list it at a certain price. And I said, that's not going to sell. We have to lower it. What's happening is, some realtors are afraid to have that hard conversation. So you're
Hmm.
listing a property $200,000 above list where it should be listed at. And you see what happens, it sits. So I think, I like having the hard conversations first. I would rather
Yeah.
talk to you about the hard stuff and talk about the warm and fuzzy stuff afterwards, because I think the hard stuff is what the sellers, buyers need to process more than the warm and fuzzy stuff. If you get those hard conversations out of the way, it makes the rest of the process a lot simpler. And I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that agents are forgetting is we'll just throw mud up against the wall and hope to God, we've got 20 listings and 5 of them sell. So I realized that, having the hard conversations and telling that the house's stories from the back end is where I fit, because the hard conversations you have to have with the realtors too.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget, who we are when we get caught up in all the social media and the glamour and everything that comes with selling a lot of houses, but nobody talks about the other stuff, which because of probably my background, I tackle the other stuff before I go into the, oh, everything's amazing stuff, because that's something that I think we need more of.
Yeah.
Is everybody's got this sense of real estate. And I think it's a little tainted, especially in HGTV. I love HGTV because I love tiny homes but HGTV has hurt real estate because first
Hmm.
time home buyers think they're going to go in and get granite and, you
Yeah.
know, all this stuff on $150,000 house. Well,
Yeah.
that's not the way it works. You're going to have to fix stuff. So I think HGTV has has glamorized real estate to the point to where we have unrealistic sellers and buyers can have unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, 100%. You see people come in with these massive budgets in these markets and they buy these beautiful homes and everybody think the process is going to work like that for them. And obviously it doesn't. Not everybody's got a budget of 700, 800, a million,
Right.
depending on what market you're in. So there's definitely some reality you've got to share. And I love you bring up the point about setting expectations because I've coached many agents over the years and still do. And that's one of the biggest fears is there's the fear of setting an expectation that maybe the client doesn't like because you're afraid you're going to lose the client. And there are cases where not taking on that client is actually going to be better for you and your business than taking on that client. Because if the client's not realistic and you can't make them realistic, we all know where that ends. It doesn't end well. It
No,
ends with frustration. It's a bad experience for everybody. And your reputation and your business don't need to take that hit when you were not working with somebody who was going to be realistic to the marketplace, anyways. And the fear of telling them that is only going to hold you back.
exactly. And there are two specific listings that I knew, because when you're going into a listing appointment or you're meeting with someone, your gut will tell you what to do. I
Yep.
mean, as an alcoholic, I have to bypass my brain and think it with my heart or my gut,
Hmm.
because my brain is just, being an alcoholic, your brain's wired a different way.
Yep.
But one thing that I know with a lot of people I've met, they're all about numbers. And if I don't get that $750,000 listing, that's going to hurt my numbers. But I'll tell you what's even more painful. And I had this happen to me. Um, 9 months into a listing, the seller decides to flip it and sell it to a buyer that I had a contract that I had written a contract for. So I lost $12,000 that way. And when you start off on the wrong foot, it just leads you down a bad path. I mean, 3 months, when you're starting off not on the same page on the listing, the price, all that stuff, it turns into a very, very bad experience. So even if you end up selling it, I don't like that, because it's a lot of animosity, a lot of anger, and that's when you get the bad reviews and stuff, when you
Hmm.
don't mesh with the person. And that has to do with title, realtors, affiliates, realtors. I mean, I can tell you people that I can't work with because I can't, I just know I can't. So if you can figure that out right at the beginning, you're to save yourself a lot of heartache and them
Yeah. 100%.
and friendships and relationships. So I think that's, but to kind of bring it back to where we were, is I believe that there's enough business for everybody out there. I like being the person that goes around and teaching realtors how to market inexpensively. And I use that marketing to refer out 53 million. So those are agent to agent referrals. And there's also our consumer referrals where people see what I'm doing, talking about the off market properties, talking about the difficult things that nobody wants to talk about, like real estate and alcoholism. It brings you to a different dynamic where um, you get more trust and they know you're transparent. I mean, I'm the kind of person where I'm not everybody's a cup of tea. But you either love me or hate me. You love me because I'm telling you the truth, or you hate me because you can't face the truth. So I think real estate
Totally.
needs a little more of that. And it's been glamorized to be such an industry that's hurt us. It's no realtor should ever tell anybody how much they make on social media because all that. I mean, number one, if you're not selling, you're not making a lot. But number two, it's going to gives everybody a sense of, social media. You can personify anything. Now you can look like you have makeup on when you don't even have makeup on. It's crazy what that does to real estate because social media is just smoke and mirrors. I could look like I have 35 listings and then turn around and not sell anything for 6 months. That's what a lot of people I've seen agents do. And, I think that with that and the other things that have happened in the market, it's given us a bad name to some people. And they're like, oh, well, she doesn't need me. She's got 50 other listings and she doesn't have time. So I think the one thing that we've done wrong is glamorize what we're doing and not show the downside and the struggles that we go through because the more you do that, the more people want to get into real estate and they go through the same problems that we all go through.
Yeah. No, and I think you nailed an important point, and it's something that I talk about a lot is the fact that everybody wants to post the I got an award, here's a closing, I did it again, all this kind of stuff. And what I remind people of is that the consumer doesn't care that you got paid. The consumer doesn't care
Yes,
that you're getting on that yacht or that you drive that really cool car, whether you own it or not. We can argue about whether or not that Lamborghini you're leaning on is yours or not, but it doesn't matter. It's one of those things where the more you rub in the face of the consumer how successful you are, the less they want to engage with you because they look at that as, I don't need you to tell me how good you are, but I want to know how you've helped people. Like, I don't care that you got paid. Tell me
exactly.
how you've helped people. Tell me the story of how you got, you know, Susie and John homeowner to where they needed to go. Don't tell me you cashed a check.
Yep. And I think, and I believe that telling your story throughout the process is the most important thing you can do. Everybody, I can make the prettiest postcards. I can get the most listings, but if someone doesn't like me or I portray a whole different dynamic, then I'm not going to get the business. I think one thing that we need to start doing more as an industry is help each other. And that's another reason I took myself out of the game as a main player is because I want to be that person that helps other agents get business by referring them business and also helping them through marketing and, just helping them, period. So I think that, we need more people like me who are authentic and true to themselves. And, I've seen a lot of people change when they start making the money because it is a great industry, but I've seen people be one way and then 4 years later, they're completely different. And I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
I mean, my happiness comes from watching my daughter grow up and watching the light bulb come off a new agent's head when they understand true marketing. True marketing is just going out and talking to people. If you don't go say hi to 14 people at a restaurant, um, or you don't, if you're afraid to go up and say hi to somebody on the street, or if you're even afraid to ask someone in your family for business, that's a problem. So I try to make people understand that what you need is right here. You
Yep.
just have to ask for it. And a lot of that just comes with repetition and time. But I think that realtors need to have the serious conversation before they even enter the industry about some of the not so amazing stuff. I think that's one thing that gets looked over a lot. We all talk about how amazing the money is and we work our own schedule, but we don't talk about all the transactions that fall apart. We don't talk about the thousands of dollars we spend a month on marketing. I think there's a lot of stuff that's left out when people get into real estate. So I like to be that person that talks about it and that gives them the trust and the confidence that they need to go out and sell. And I think that's the number one thing. We can get, like me, I can get a ton of leads. I'm just not a good negotiator. So I figured out where I fit in the market. And that's the telling the houses stories and getting the business and letting someone else sell it.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. And that's a big piece of this business and this industry and really anything you do in general is just finding your fit. When you're doing something that doesn't fit, the tendency is you feel that friction, you don't want to do it, you don't do it well, you don't do it consistently. But when you find that
Absolutely.
fit, the work doesn't feel heavy anymore. It
No.
feels easy and simple and light and you just go and do it.
And I think, no, when I was really active selling real estate, which I'm not anymore, I always had anxiety. I always felt like something was off. And it
Hmm.
was because I wasn't my true self, you know.
Yep.
Everybody, when I decided to take a step back from real estate, I had the broker at Red One, a different realty company say, "You're crazy. You should have a team and you should go full speed ahead." That's not the way I work. I would rather watch you sell a house, maybe close it and get that satisfaction than being that person that's out doing that all day long. Cause I've done that, and God bless everybody who loves that, but that's not where I fit. So at least, took me a year to figure that out. But I mean, I think that if people had a little bit knew what they were getting into a little more at first, then we wouldn't have so many people lose their whole life savings trying to become a realtor.
Yep. No, very true. So, all right. So we've talked a little bit about title, about some marketing, helping agents. Let's talk a little bit about the relocation companies. What does the relocation company do, and what most attracted you to get into that business?
So my relocation company is called Your Ohio to Florida Real Estate Connection, as I mentioned. I started it because I saw the need in title because I started traveling to Pompano Beach, Miami, Fort Lauderdale area about 9 years ago when I was pregnant with my daughter because I was married to a guy whose mom lived down here. So when I got divorced, I made a promise that I would find a way to come to Florida a lot. So by doing that and sharing a lot of information about Florida, I had people coming to me, "Hey, do you know a good agent in Florida?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So I would just Google it and find a good agent. Hey, this is a great person. Being a title rep at the time, I didn't want a referral fee. I just wanted to manage the closing. So after a couple years of doing that, I saw the need. And then I started Googling and I said, nobody has connected Ohio to Florida in all these
Hmm.
years. So, and at least not the right way.
Sure.
Um, so in 2021, I took a leap of faith and I left a job I was at for 8 years, which was as one of the top title reps in Ohio, to go to a national title company that could service Florida. So I could facilitate the closings. So that what I did was at that time is I just started getting on a lot of the off market groups and reaching out to a lot of realtors, letting them know I'm not a threat. I'm from Ohio. I work with a lot of investors in Ohio that would like to invest in Florida. And by doing that, I also got a lot of investors that want, like I just got a referral today with a guy in Miami that wants to buy 8 units in Cleveland. So by
Nice.
asking people, where do you sell? And then I would start, my clients would say, "Hey, I'm opening up a brokerage in St. Pete. Hey, I'm opening up a brokerage in Sarasota. Hey, I'm going to Fort Lauderdale." So it really helped curve the entire state with the people that I needed to facilitate the referrals. So after then I
Hmm.
started, then I got an epiphany and I thought about it. Everybody does on market updates. You see all the market updates. Well, because I'm marketing and I can pull a lot of distressed property lists, I started going around all of Florida and all of Ohio and sit down at a restaurant and I would explain the off market report and how
Hmm.
the numbers in, say, Miami is different than the numbers in Columbus, obviously different cities, but I would go through, hey, there are 700 HOA liens and explain to them what that meant because I've been pulling farming for 25 years. I understand that better than anybody.
Hmm.
So I started doing a different route to get business than everybody else. And that's just talk about the off market. And that's just talk about the numbers. That got me a ton of traction with the investors. So I landed Canadian investor, I landed as an Israeli investor and a couple of investors out of New York and New Jersey. So by doing that, I just referred them to agents out of Ohio. And it's funny because once you start a group like that, it just blows up. So I started in November of 2021 and I had me, myself, and I, and now my relocation's up to 1,750 people and 53 million.
Wow.
And we haven't even gotten started. I'm not web based. Everything I do is through text or emails, that kind of stuff. I'm not a referral link or anything, but um, it gives it show number one, it shows my dedication to Ohio and Florida because, I could add other states into it, but it's very important to me that those two states are the only two states that are involved in it.
Hmm.
So now I've gotten to the point to where I have agents posting their stuff on there. I have investors posting their stuff on there. I have the consumers asking questions. So it's just a great way for 1,700 people, whether they're affiliates, they're agents, they're investors, they're consumers, to all connect together. So through that, I've made a couple lenders a lot of money because they refer through the group. So my what I manage the group to keep the the riffraff out or the spam out, but I let people engage with each other without trying to manage it. I'm trying to create something where everybody makes money. And now that my dynamics have shifted as an agent, I don't ask for a referral fee anymore. This is more just to get business, whether marketing wise or going down my next venture. So
Yeah.
it's important to me. The relationships are more important to me than the referral fee.
Yeah, that's fascinating and actually a really smart way to do it because normally you talk to title reps or title companies and you ask them, why don't you advertise to the consumer? And they're like, well, we don't, we get involved later in the transaction. Usually we come through the agents who refer us. So, us talking to the consumer, spending money on advertising the consumer makes no sense. And what you said is that's not true because if I
No, it's
get the
not at all true.
yeah, if I get the consumer and I connect them to the agent, I'm going to get the title business. So I'm going to go do the marketing the agents aren't to grab the clients that they want to give them the clients so I get the title business. So in a way, you've actually turned the entire paradigm of the industry on its head, and you're now the title person going to find the clients for the agents because it's securing the business downstream, which I think is incredibly clever. Somebody who knows how to market can absolutely utilize that as a way to generate leads to keep their agent partners happy, but it's all business that comes back to you anyways.
Absolutely. And one thing that, when I started this group, I didn't understand anything about relocation and I didn't understand, but I did see a lot of national companies, Remax is every national lender has a title company.
Sure.
A lot of the larger banks has a title company, it seems like every brokerage that pops up now has a joint venture. So for 25 years, I had to go up against the joint ventures, and I never believed in joint ventures. I believed in showing you how to sell one extra home per year, or two extra homes, or five extra homes. I never want to be that person that said I'm paid for my business. I mean, you charge somebody 6% of $5.99 admin fee on top of that. No, by the way, I own all the companies you work with. Well, that's just plain greedy. And I don't say that lightly, but I've seen it
Sure.
take down people. If something goes wrong, then now you own the title company that we just closed with, and you just, got me for 25,000. So I sat at the closing table a lot over the years and seen some very unhappy people. So what I do is instead of doing the referral fee, I just want to dictate title. And, with the marketing, I've been very lucky over the years that I've learned how to. The problem that we do in real estate, just to step back a minute, is we chase, 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 chase.
Yep.
We will chase somebody, even if they're not the right fit, just because we're all about the chase in sales. It's all about the thrill of the chase, me included. And then once you get them, then what do you do with them? So, I decided to be that person that I treat everybody the same. I don't care if you have one closing or 750 closings a month. $10,000 mobile home has led me to $1 million properties in the past. And that's a true story. So I treat everybody the same. I believe in the underdogs. I believe in people that don't, I'm from the west side of Columbus, which is not a good area. And I made it to the other side, but I like to, probably because I'm a service oriented person because of
Yep.
my alcoholism. But I will tell you this, I did it because I tell my story. And to me, my story is just a story because I've said it so many times. People, will, basically, they will, they'll, they feel like they can connect with me in a certain way, whether they drink too much with, real estate or anything like that. They connect with me because I'm transparent about my life and my journey, which is not a normal one in real estate. And they see, I talk loud, I talk fast. I am who I say I am.
Mhm.
And I don't pretend to be somebody else, and I think Dad's been lucky enough to do it, to shift it from chasing to attracting. So I have a lot of people come to me through social media, through emails, or just say, hey, I know you. I was at Kroger the other day. He's like, hey, congratulations on moving over to EXP. I'm like, how'd you know? He goes, oh, I saw your post. So you're talking, I'm in Columbus, Ohio at the grocery store when somebody I don't even know is putting his cart away saying congratulations. Well, happy, so it's that kind of stuff. And what agents
Yep.
need to realize, go out and tell your story. It's painful, but it's also
Mhm.
healing. And that's marketing these days. Not go tell somebody we have 700 million listings. That's not marketing. That's boasting. Let's talk about some of the hard stuff. Let's talk about some of the stuff that people will connect with. I can have the Stephanie's Amazing show. I have that every day. You know, I don't want, that's probably not the right thing to say, but I think that being authentic and true to yourself is what people need to do, realtors especially, to change it from shifting to attracting. And I've learned to do that, telling my story for so long that now it has helped me in my relocation business, where people are coming to me saying, I know you, you're true, you're authentic. I know you'll find me the right person to sell my house or to
Yep.
find me investment property, yada, yada, yada.
No, I think that's totally true. I think people are attracted to authenticity, and they can tell when you're not authentic. They can tell when they meet you and what they've seen in the past or heard is not the same as what they actually are confronted with, and that's a big part of it. People want to work with people that they've gotten to know, that they feel like they can that they feel like they can trust, and if they feel like there's not that true authentic connection, or that there's that authenticity coming back to them, it is a turnoff. People can smell when you're fake. And I get the saying of fake it till you make it. And when you're early on in your career, you have to be a little bit of a chameleon. But ultimately, people just want to work with good, authentic people. They don't have to have the best highlight reel or the best numbers. They just want to work with good people.
And they want that connection. You work so hard to get the trust, whether it's a buyer or a seller. You want that connection. And what gives you that connection,
Mm.
especially through social media, is being your true authentic self. I mean, I manage my group, but I don't, I don't bash people. I make sure that, all the people that want to put all the junk on there are off. I mean, to truly want to help people, I mean, it's taken me 8 years to get, I started thinking about this 8 years ago, and it's taken me 8 years to get where I want. So my biggest message is that people have to understand that everybody's got their own path. My
Hmm.
path is going to ways that I didn't ever expect it to go, because I thought that I would be titled my whole life, which I probably will be for the rest of my life, but I didn't ever think I would go down the path as a real estate agent. And I don't think I will ever do that again, but I learned where I fit. And that is helping people, helping realtors, more than dragging consumers around all day showing them houses or, listing. I think that, you know, I believe that everybody's got a place in the industry, and my place is connect the right people together so they have the right fit. And I think I've just, through all the years of networking and marketing and meeting people all over the country, Ohio and Florida mostly, I've been blessed to have that, to where now I have Florida people coming and saying, "Hey, I hear you have this great relocation group, and I want to be a part of it." So it's really growing authentically. I don't do any marketing for it, so we have grown organically from me, myself, and I to 1,750 people in 2 years, which to me I'm very proud of, especially for the type of group it is.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a very specific group. So to grow like that, it shows a high level of interest in that topic and also in what's being shared.
it is, and what's funny is you don't really realize what the hot button is in real estate. And it changes every month with the next best
Hmm.
thing. But I like to talk about the things, like the off market. I like to talk about the stuff that nobody else talks about, because it just gives a different view on everything. And I think people need that, because we're all bombarded with on market and we're all bombarded with certain stuff. But the things that people are really interested in, I like to talk about and bring, kind of like you do on your show, bring into, let's have a conversation about it. That's how I feel. And a lot of that stuff has to do with either the taboo topics or the topics nobody wants to talk about because it causes discomfort. Not that I like that, but let's get that out of the way and go do the fun stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, so let's dive a little bit now into your journey and some of the factors in it. So, what when you look back, what do you view as having been most important to your success? Is there a particular habit, a trait, a mindset, a mentor? Is there something you point to that you feel like really made all the difference in your journey?
Um, Reinventing yourself.
Mm,
And I would say reinventing yourself and consistency and just being able to get up and do it. I mean, when I had my daughter, I was doing about 70 closings a month. I was tour director for Dublin. I was sergeant of arms for Southern Delaware and Ohio. And I thought I was on the top of the world. And then I had the baby and I heard the cancer word, which scares the heck out of you.
yep.
So, when something like that happens to you, it changes you. I mean, the C word, the cancer word, is the hardest word in the world. But when you have an infant at home, it scares you 10 times as much. Getting sober was very difficult for me, but cancer was something I couldn't, I can't control my alcoholism, but I could, after I got that, the cancer changes you
Hmm.
to the point to where that shows you what's important and what's not important. I had two I had a defining moment in the hospital when I heard the word suspicious cells. And I had two choices at that time. I could have rolled over and played dead and watched my career go to hell, or I can say, okay, Steph, this is just like anything else. You get up and you do it. So at that point, I learned to take the emotion out of everything. And every day I got up, I did my marketing. I talked to my realtors when I was in chemo. I told them that's my 3 hours by myself. I continued to do the same things as long as I could every single day that I did to get business. So I would say 2015, when that happened, was my defining factor, because that was when my agents started helping me with my daughter. If I'd go to chemo, I was a single, I was in an unhappy marriage and I became a single mom when she was 9 months old. So I would say my defining factor was having a little girl and having to acknowledge that you had the hardest disease that you didn't, cancer. Nobody wants the cancer word. I didn't know at the time, I didn't know if I was going to survive or not, because when you hear lymphoma, there's two different types. But I would say that would be my first defining moment. You really see what you're made of when you put up against something like that, especially with a young daughter, a young child. It is once that happens to you, you'll never be the same, but it gives you a sense of strength that you never knew you had, because now you have to do it because you have a little person. So I'd say the defining moment for me was when I had my daughter and going through cancer and beating that, and having the support of all the real estate community in Ohio and people following my journey, because I tell my story. I told my story back then as well. Watching people come together to help me was probably amazing, and it set the dynamics and gave me the confidence and the strength that I needed to go down the path that nobody wants to go down, because I'd already been down it. So I would say that is the defining factor. And I would say that my realtors in Columbus, Ohio, my core people, have been the ones that have kept me going, because when you have so many ups and downs like I have, you know, the money's not important anymore. It's the journey. And once you
Mm.
learn about the journey, you have the people that are on the journey with you, and they're with you through the cancer. They're with you through the alcoholism. They've seen you drunk. They don't know if you can get sober. It changes you. And those dynamics are what gives you, it's just all about the strength. And it's about reinventing yourself when something doesn't work. When I had all my eggs in the title basket for years and years, when you get taken from 270 closings down to 7, that hurt me more than having cancer, because it was something that, it wasn't a pain. It was oh my gosh, I just lost 20 years of my life that I've worked so hard for. So I think that, the defining moments were having cancer and losing my business was the hardest thing I've ever been through. And that's what brought me into, I'm the comeback kid. Don't, I might be down, but don't catch me out. Don't think I'm out, because I will come back twofold doing the same thing. It's all
Mm.
marketing. It's all, whether you're selling title, houses, whatever, ice cubes, it's all marketing. It's how you present yourself. And I learned when I had cancer, I lost all my hair. So I slapped a wig on and I took that wig off and I got to the office and I just acted like it was a part of my life, because you don't know what else to do, and that's
Yep.
what gives you, telling my story now being, 8 years ago, I didn't look this way back then. And it's very eye opening. You see who's really in your corner and who's not when you're knocked to your knees.
Yep.
So I think it's all those people that supported me through that time, and I've grown up in this industry with, that have kept me, got me to the point where I'm at, which I never thought I could be. I thought I'd just be an Ohio title rep the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Those kind of knock you down moments are the ones that give you the greatest clarity, the greatest focus, and allow you to really assess where you're at, who's around you, who's on your side, as you mentioned. As painful as they are in the moment, sometimes those are the moments that really do change the direction of everything, and bring you back stronger, because that's when you realize all the stuff you were worried about before, it just doesn't matter.
It's
And
just stuff.
here's are the people that really have your back.
Right. And what's funny is that what I never realized going through all this is that changes as you change.
Hmm.
The people that got me through the several years when I was fighting cancer, going through a divorce, I'm a single mother with no child support. So going through those beginning years of my life, I had different people supporting me. It's funny how as you change, God brings new people into your life. I don't have all the same people, but I have the same core support people. But those are people that I know if I called them tomorrow, they would help me in 5 minutes.
Yep.
It's just as we grow and change, our dynamics grow and change. But I would say that that has been what shaped my entire career. I mean, once you realize what's important, you can't take any of that stuff with you. You know, I have a small child, and cancer. You Those are two words you never want to have together.
Hmm.
But then you have two, like I said, you have two choices. You keep going, or you lay down dead, and you can't lay down dead when you have to take care of a child. And I think that's made me who I am. I've learned every time I think I don't want any more. I don't want God to test me anymore. But every time I didn't think I could make it through one more thing, I got one more thing. And,
Yep.
that has given me the strength and the endurance that I need in the real estate industry to go through all the changes, as well as in my life. I know what's important and not important.
Yep.
And yeah. So that's kind of, I hope that answered your question. I'm sorry.
No, no, totally. And now I want to switch gears a little bit and go to the other side. What is that most difficult lesson you've learned along the way? What was the mistake or the lesson that came out of this journey and the changing of directions and the life circumstances? What's been that most difficult lesson you picked up?
You have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that you can do it. And I would say the second part to that is that you can't take everybody with you. When you're a giver and a very giving, big hearted person like me, you want to make sure everybody else is okay before you.
Hmm.
Um, but you learn, when I was in title all those years, my phone never stopped ringing. The minute I got my real estate license, only 3 people called me, because I mean, you can probably understand why
Hmm.
and that's why you have to be your own cheerleader.
Totally.
I took my marketing. I mean, my best friend, I referred $2 million to her last year. $2 million in business. That's a lot of money.
It is.
And then when I stopped referring and started selling, crickets. And those are from people I've known my entire life. And it's not that they're bad people. Your dynamics changed. I can't manage your real estate career anymore or give you your business. So that showed me where I fit in their life, and that was my hardest thing, is all the people that I brought them to the $10 million, $50 million, $100 million. Once I became their competition, which I really wasn't, because I never sold very well. I'm a good marketer, not a good negotiator. But that's the silence that comes when you decide to go down a different career path. I would say that, and you have to understand that people are going to come in and out of your life, whether you like it or not, in this industry. And I never had that happen the first 17 years in this industry, because I always worked with the same people.
Hmm.
And then when I went to a national company and changed my dynamics, you don't take those people with you sometimes. And I think that was my hardest lesson, was going through the grief and the pain of taking the people with me that I thought I could. And then I realized that at the end of the day, I'm the only one that I'm obviously my child, but I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror and be proud of myself and say, guess what? I stayed sober. I didn't hurt anybody, and I did it. And I also learned, I preach this a lot in sobriety. You have to take it one day at a time. When you're trying to master a beast like I am, and still be a mom and be, good, it's hard, and you have to take it day by day, and you have to let yourself have the bad days.
Yep.
I'm a perfectionist. I want everything to be perfect. And that's just how I'm built. But I had to give myself permission not to be perfect, because this is an industry with lots of moving parts, and it changes every day. I've seen a ton of realtors be at the top of their game a year ago, and now they're struggling like everybody else, and a lot of realtors are afraid to say they're struggling, because it
Hmm.
looks like they might not on social media. But I'm like, yeah, look at me. I spent my life savings to become a realtor, only to figure out it's not what I want to do. And I'm okay to say that, because I know somebody out there needs to hear it.
Right.
And once you get to know yourself, and it doesn't scare you anymore to put your stuff out there, I mean, that's the game changer, is become. So my kind of your one thing to three, you can't take everybody with you. You got to be your own cheerleader, and you have to have grace with yourself. If you don't, this industry is going to defeat you every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And that's what I've learned.
I love that point, because I think a lot of people think that the people that they surround themselves with will be there forever. And what we learn is that very few people are there forever. They're usually there for a season or a reason, but
Oh
they're
yeah.
not there forever. And I think we tend to mourn a lot of relationships that we're naturally going to go that direction anyways. And it's not the end of the world. To your point, as long as you've got your own back, the people can come and go. But if you don't support yourself and you're relying on somebody else to support you, that's when this business gets very difficult, because you're constantly looking for that that source, and it's not always the same person.
And this industry is so built on perceptions and
Mm.
look at her. She drives a Mercedes and she's got, she lives in a $500,000 house and she's got all this bougie stuff. What you don't see, and I've seen this. I drive to Dublin, and you walk into their house, there's no furniture. They're more worried about the perception than reality. Think about it. I'm
Yeah.
sure we all have that story.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
where's all your furniture? Well, I don't have any money for furniture. I spend it all on my Beamers and my kids' Catholic education.
Yep.
You know what I mean. I spend it all. And I did the same thing because when I first started in real estate, I'm like, I got the money. I'll show them what I can do. All you do is show them what not to do. So, I mean, you know how you get the next best thing. That's another reason it brings us back to marketing. I like to tell people, stick to the basics and really, work through who you know before you go out and try to buy the next best thing.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, everybody in this industry, nobody really understands how expensive it is. And I think
No.
a lot of agents are afraid to say they're struggling. And I think every agent in this market has had some sort of shift, whether they're struggling or not. I don't know, but I know I talk to realtors all day, every day, and I hear it all the time. It's like, what do I do now? And
Yep.
that's where we're back to the basics. So that's where I fit. I like those. I don't like those conversations for them, but I like those conversations because now they're level. Let's talk about what we really need to
Mhm.
do to grow your business. And
Y
some of that sometimes is talking about the bad things.
Yep.
Because trust me, I was on I was on the American Dream show, which I paid a lot of money for. I did some things early in my real estate career that I should have waited for. And that hurt me a lot. But I learned my lesson and bring it back to the three most important things. Money comes and goes. It doesn't mean anything. It's all about the journey and and being true and authentic.
Yep. Yeah, 100%, and I think those are all really good points, and, I think it's important too, as this industry is in this shift and there's a lot of pivoting going on and a lot of concern too. First of all, people have to admit that something's not working or admit that there's a problem before they can receive that feedback of, "Here's how you could change things," and I think what you're hitting on is really good where, you are that resource for them, but ultimately, if they're not ready for the feedback, then they're not gonna take the feedback.
And half the time you just have to talk it through. I have realtors that'll call me, whether it's about a closing we've done and their panties are in a bunch, or it's about a misspelling on a postcard or something. That's not the real problem.
Mm.
You have to go through all that stuff. And my core clients, even my best friend who's a $200 million producer, I look at her and I say, you're off today. She says, what do you mean? You're off today. Well, how do you know I'm off today? Because I've been your best friend for a long time and I can tell you you're off today. And I'm okay to say that because I'm her friend first,
Yeah.
and I will say that to any of my friends because I want them to say it to me. If I've got, lettuce in my teeth, tell me. And if I'm a beat off, tell me, because I need to know because sometimes we're going through stuff internally, to where we don't know what we are. I mean, there was a time when I was doing 115 closings a month in the state of Ohio, running my butt off. And one of my clients said to me, hey, Steph, I love you. You're one of the best title reps, but I don't want you doing any more of my closings because you are a mad woman. Meaning I was so jumbled inside. I was moving so quickly that I was
Yep.
chasing over myself. And it took a true friend to tell me, get your stuff together, Steph. And that is, I don't like the way she said it, but
Yep.
you respect people like that because she's right. And I know
Yeah.
she's right. And I'm just trying to play the part so nobody else knows she's right. Well, now when you lose everything in different ways throughout your life, it's like, well, gosh, I don't care. I don't care what they think of me. At the end of the day, they're not paying for my child or my bills or anything. So it just doesn't matter. And anybody who's going to judge you, they need to look internally first. And I
Yep.
think that that's another, thing that I would just want to, at closing, want to bring up is people, people want to help people and people need to work together to go through their issues. I mean, I think I'm just a safe source because I put all my stuff out there. They're like, well, I know she's not going to put my stuff out there. So it gives them a safe source to talk to, which is my most important thing. And like you said, people do business with people they like and trust. I can have the lowest closing costs and the best marketing in the world, but if I'm a mean woman, you don't want to work with me.
Mhm.
I mean, I could have the best of everything and not get any business because I don't present myself the right way or I'm not presenting myself the right way to the right people.
Yep.
So I think over the years, those people change as we get older, but I think that's the most important thing is, trust yourself and trust your strengths and embrace your weaknesses too. I mean, there are some things I can never be, and I'm okay with that. And there are some things that I am that someone else can't be. And I want them to be okay with that. But together we bring the dynamics and we can I've been a one-man marching band my whole life, but I believe in teams now because I believe your strengths might be my weaknesses and my strengths might be your weaknesses. You add them both together, then you're unstoppable. And that's the
Yep.
kind of team I like to be with my agents, whether referral partners, marketing, or title, whatever it is. I want partnerships. I want to know that I got your back, you got my back. That I give you a referral, you're not going to go give it to Sally two doors down. Are you sure in the world? Or not going to go close it with somebody else? I have to trust you as much as you trust me. Kind of like playing in my sandbox. You want to play in my sandbox, you stay in my sandbox. You don't follow the rules, you can go play in someone else's sandbox. And those are the things you have to bring up front. And I have no
Yeah.
problem having that hard conversation up front because that's what people are afraid of.
Yeah. All right. Last question before we got to wrap up here.
Awesome.
What is the one piece of advice you wish you had gotten before you got started?
Take it slow. You don't have
Mm,
to kill. You don't have to conquer the universe in a day. Take it slow.
mm,
Do your research before you jump into another phase of real estate. I think had I done that about 2 years ago, it would have saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Learn your market. Don't jump until take it slow. You don't have to conquer all of Florida or Ohio in 10 minutes and listen and start your Excel file now. Start your database now.
mm. No, those are great pieces of advice. It's start from the middle, work your way out. Don't try to go from the
Yep.
outside and try to get back to the middle. So,
And don't one more thing, don't compare yourself to the other agents out there. I
mm,
used to when I first got licensed, I used to watch what other people are doing and I'm like, "Well, I don't have 6 listings today." Well, no, they've been selling real estate for 10 years. They didn't get 10 title orders today either. You have to, I would say go slow and stay in your own lane. I would say, and don't pay attention to what everybody else is doing. The only person you're in competition with is the you from yesterday.
yeah, love that. All right. If people want to get in touch with you to learn more about you, the relocation company, the groups that you run, what's the best way for people to reach out?
They can call me. My phone number is 614-633-5540, or come find me on social media. My name is Stephanie Maclam, Maclam as in Mary.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time today, Stephanie. Great story. A lot of fun. Thanks for coming
Thank you.
on.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. It's been a lot of fun to tell my story. And I love watching you and how you're growing through everything as well.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.